Thank you. Well, after several failed attempts with the Tararira, I decided to head this way to fish. And we're going to start with a bait I prepared for Laguna, which is usually very effective for me. Let's start by preparing the first fishing setup. In this case, we're going to use a bait that I mentioned to you earlier. Fresh liver is always a very good bait for fishing in lagoons and streams. A recommendation? Remember that in the spring-summer season, when the palomadas are very active, as well as the dorados, I don't recommend them, because being a bait that's always fresh and bloody, they'll cut it off quickly. So, if you're going to fish in lagoons or in the river during winter, it's a very good bait. We're going to cast on the surface. So, let's look for a pot I've got prepared over here. It's a pot that we can change the hook, as you can see. This one's more for Tararira Dorado Ola, run Isa. Since we don't know the place, we don't know what kind of fish there are. So we're going to switch to a smaller hook. First, to locate the bites we're getting. Let's try with one of these. It's more for mixed fish. Always make sure that this sharp hook. We also have little frog lures, hook-on frog lures to try out later. Soon, we'll get another set of gear ready to cast from the other side of the stream. In these places, it's always best to cast near the vegetation, near the bushes. because that's where the fish usually hide or make their little nests in these areas. Soon we'll prepare another setup. To cast in this area, we're going to bottom fish here. We're getting the next reel ready. It's already set up. As I said, we'll set up a Korean rig in this case, with several small hooks, so that any type of fish that tries it will get caught. That way, let's see what's going on. Biting in this spot. Here you have the trap. Let's start by putting liver. Remember that whenever you make your fillets, try to leave the top part of the liver. What is the gray membrane? This one, which helps keep it from coming off the hook easily. This way you can bait much more easily without having problems when casting. We still have one hook left. So let's go ahead and put a bigger one on, so it works better as a bait holder, and that way there's less left. Everything ready for the second cast of the day? All right then, let's go. To cast roughly in the middle of this spot. Exactly, that was the cast I was aiming to achieve. The safety is off just in case. And now, time to let the rod rest and wait for a bite. Friends, let's go explore and check out the place to see if we can find another spot ahead. A better spot to fish, or simply a place much deeper than this one. Friends, I found that the journey was more of the same. A canal that connects to the river and is basically about to dry up. So, well, surely when I come back, I'll end up changing the fishing gear for the stream that has more depth. Look at the remains. Not even a snail. This happens as these channels in the fields dry up. And well, the snail hunters appear, the birds, and they feed on everything that's left. Look at this part. In places like this, I never underestimate, since I've caught Tarushas everywhere. Well, over there in front of us, we have some ducks. Clearly, the water that's here has come from the whole other canal when this was flooded. This was all water. See, there are still aquatic plants. Friends, if I'm not mistaken, we have a fish on this rod, the one we prepared with the trap on the Korean line. Something's coming, guys. A beautiful Tararira, guys. That's what we came looking for today. Just like up there. A beautiful animal. It had just moved. And look, friend's reward. Let's release it, friends. It's too small to prepare or use. Now that we've confirmed there are trout, let's proceed to prepare the buoy on the surface. We have a leader. We were fortunate they didn't cut us off. I heard movement over there, so there might be fish too. Let's refresh the float bait, friends. Look at what I prepared for it. Really fresh, to attract the attention of a good tarua. Let's see if we can get a surface bite. Or maybe we'll have to prepare bottom gear, because the bait I put out this time wasn't touched. So it could be a sign that maybe they're deeper down because of the weather change, since the cold is coming. So let's see. Let's see. After insisting for a while. Those minnows are so small you can't even hook them. So, well, let's check the rods we have over there and see if we have anything new. Apparently, I can see the float from here and it's out of place. Maybe something bit, or maybe there's a fish hooked. Another tarucha, friends. It got away from me right there. Friends, we moved because the bites were slow there. So, well, we looked for this spot, which might be deeper. Now let's go with the first cast. Let's see if we can catch a catfish. We have the sun right in front of us. Well, let's get the mate ready to see if the fish start biting. So far, I caught one tarucha, but the other got away. And we came to this deeper part to see if we can find a little lagoon catfish or some other species. From the bottom. I already threw the buoy, so we're still looking for the tarucha. Let's see. The first little mate. There we go, guys. First mate of the afternoon. Friends, once again, we're at this place where we caught the boga the previous catch. Today we came with the idea of catching one and cooking it on the shore. So, well, let's see if today we get lucky again, and if not, why not? Another big catfish that we can catch and, well, also prepare it that way. Today I'm alone, so, well, let's get started. It's 8:30 in the morning. We have a pretty nice day. For now, it looks like there's no wind, and we're going to take advantage of the first casts of the morning. I'll show you the bait I brought in a moment. Mate, of course. And well, just this gear, because of the spot. We don't have much room to cast. We need a little water to prepare the dough. Notice that the river has already gone down again. It's crazy how it starts to drop at this time of year. Then we're done with the river, basically. In half. So you have to make the most of everyone. These last moments of good water. Well, we already have the water. Now let's proceed to prepare the dough. Friends, this is how the dough is prepared to make the first batch. So let's proceed. Balance. I have to somewhat remember where I made the last shots the last time. Because if you remember, I hit one of those, so yeah. I remember it was over there, across. I guide myself because there was that stick down there. Let's wait for it to go down. That's an area where there aren't big holes, but it doesn't have as much sand as when you go over to that side, and also when you cross over there. So, well, let's wait for it to go down. Once it goes down, we already have the rod holder here. Natural one that's been left in this spot. Look, they're telling me Pinta has the rod there. I think it went way to the left. Hey, I don't remember it being like this the last time. Yeah, it moved a lot. Maybe it ended up right in a deep spot or something, but well, I climbed up the ravine a bit to get this shot. Look. Estimate that the water has reached up to there. About 70% estimate from that column, where you see the different color where the watermark is. And this tree, this acacia, I remember it was very small. This helps you understand the scale of how tall this is. Look here, I'm just at the same level. Look down. Look at how many meters there are. A lot. Look. I think there was an otter there, or a little seal. I think it's an otter. It just dove under right there. They already caught up with it. I don't know if it was seen in the video, but it must have a cave or something there. Between the sticks, that's it. There it is, climbing up. I can see it now, but I don't think it's the same species as in the video. But it's there, in the branches. As soon as it comes out, I'll share it with you again. But for those who are wondering, all those tree remains are left when the river rises, which comes with a lot of water from the lake, and, well, that's what happens in this area. Also, as you can see over there, it's exactly the same. Imagine that thanks to the tree up here, Acacio, a large part of the coast here is being held together because the roots make everything hold together, everything in this area. That's why this side is better preserved, while the other is much more eroded. Now, imagine this area when it rains. Nothing, just a little bit. You can't walk here anymore because this is river mud. You'll sink down, that's it. Look, this plant is called, or they call it mimosa, because when you run your finger over it, it closes. Look. Hey, is this the one or the one for colds? No, not that one. It's this one. I think so. Let's check. I don't think they want cuddles today. Well, I just gathered and there was nothing, friends. It was completely bare. So let's go for the second try of the morning. This time, I'm adding more bait and casting farther since I wasn't convinced by the first attempt. Once we cast, we're going to go prepare some mate up there in the sun and, well, just wait for a bite. I like that one better. You know, I've already told you that when you fish with dough, sometimes it takes a while to get the spot going. But once it's baited and the bites start, then that's it. The water's warm. We have mate. Zambilla. And look where I ended up. We have old fishing gear, but since there's no sun now, we don't need them. Look where I had to put the yerba. There's no more room left in the backpack, so I improvised this way. As you can see, apparently, the fish aren't biting much, but it's happened before in this spot that nothing bites at first. Actually, the last time I went fishing, it was the same. Also, you know you usually get a bite or two when preparing your mate. All set, my friend. Is the rod getting subtle bites? So I'm suspecting that maybe there are some small catfish that usually gather there. I mean, they attack the bait in numbers, like 3 or 4 little catfish, and, well, they strip it. That's the problem with the dough bait sometimes. Sometimes, like today, I've caught 3 little yellow catfish at once, since when they get hooked, you pull them all out together. But that bait also ends up attracting the bigger fish, especially when they see the others feeding. See how the rod is just waiting for a bite? Look, some fishermen might be fishing for us. Without this combo, tell me, are you one of those fishermen? Me, in my case, with mate, I'm good. But here it's a pretty normal custom, let's say. Let's set up a bottom fishing rig to change things up a bit and try the liver. A sliding sinker. We leave about 30 centimeters so it can slide. And well, once we do that, we look for a small bead to stop it so it doesn't touch. And here we make a knot. We're going to put a little hook on it to change the hook depending on the bite we get. The idea is to try to catch a boga with liver. And you know that for boga, you have to use a small hook. So we're definitely going to use this. That way we can change the hook. Slip knot. And hook, let's find one. Make it a bit smaller for a change. Look, there it is. Hook, Chico, and liver. So well, let's cast now. Friends, we've been fishing for over 3 hours, almost 4. I set up the Korean rig again, because with the liver, a lot of bait stealers were stripping it off. And well, it looks like we have the first catch of the day. With dough. Obviously, look, it's tugging. It might be what we're looking for. Hope it's a good catch we can prepare and share. Or it could be a catfish or a mancholo. The voice is really crazy. Relay, we're here. All right, friends, look. Hey, it's beautiful. Good thing I made it again. The Korean line Myron, which says, "We have food to eat today." Mission accomplished, friends. Now it's time to keep fishing. Well, let's store it safely and see if we can catch an even bigger one. But look, a beautiful specimen. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Friends, I left the fish up there. Looking closely, I realized it was a shad. Amazing, since I'd never caught one with dough before. I don't know if you've fished with dough or other bait, but its mouth was fine, so they must feed on this. Like I said, the sun is shining in my face. I was getting blinded, and when I mistook it for a boga, I didn't realize it. But as soon as I went to take out the hook, seeing its mouth, I realized it was a sabalo. Let's keep trying, and soon we'll go up there. To prepare the sabalo on the grill with lemon. All right, new catch, new catch. It looks like this got active, guys. Yes. Ah. He hasn't taken it, has he? Let's walk along the shore and see if it comes out, since it was definitely a fish. All right, my friend. I left the line there with the safety loose to see if the fish moves. And that way it frees itself because it was pretty much stuck. Now we'll clean the fish. We're going to open it from the back so it's easier to prepare. All right, we've opened it. Now we'll wash it. In the belly of the fish, it had all the dough that I'm throwing out, literally. So they've been feeding on the dough for quite a while now. Let's make sure the fish is really clean. Look, it's amazing. An ideal thickness for eating. Friends, the fish is clean. We're making some small cuts so that the salt, the lemon, and the seasonings can soak in better. Look. Let's add the salt now so it can start getting some flavor. Once we do this, we're going to go get some firewood and get the fire ready. Because this needs embers, folks. It needs good embers so the fish can cook nicely. That's it. We'll leave that to keep warm. And now we'll look for some firewood. Let's use the spot where someone already made a fire and prepare it here. We're fortunate to have firewood everywhere here, so making a fire will be easier for us. I came to this area to find... Use fallen leaves to start the fire. Come. We have more now. This will help us start the fire, the hardest part. I think with this, we'll be good to go. I reused leftover sticks from the last fire as a base. So let's see if we can get the fire started quickly. The fire is well covered with good logs to produce embers. So now let's see if we can sort out the fishing rod and unhook it so we can keep fishing. But look, excellent fire. We went down to get some stones so we could set up the grill. Friends, once you flip it over, the first thing is to sear it a little, and then, at least that's how I prepare it. See, I put some embers underneath. That's it. Look how perfect it is. Remember that if the fish is really fresh, you start by placing it face down. Don't forget, because if you overcook it, the fish will stick, and then it'll be hard to flip it over. And this way, like I said, you sear it on top, then flip it over and cook it calmly, because on the bottom it has the scales, so you won't have the problem of the fish sticking. Now, friends, I can intensify the coals a bit more under the fish, since in this part we cover it with the scales. We can add a little more. All right, friends, before taking out the fish, what can't be missing? Lemon. Look how delicious this is. Now add the lemon. Meanwhile, the other half stays on the grill, so it doesn't lose heat. Friends, we've finished fishing. So, as I always say, thank you all very much for watching and for being a part of this. Until next time, everyone.